And
Okay. Well,
go ahead.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be a bit of a stretch to come up with a transition to the next movie. You might
Well, while you think about that, I will be right back.
okay. Well, I was gonna say you have to stretch a bit, a long stretch. It's gonna be the original, The Longest Yard. So while I wait for Daniel, let's see if we have any questions or activity over in the chat. We, in fact, do not. Okay. Well, I don't want to get too much into this since this is a shared review, but just to kind of give a brief overview of this, I had actually seen the Adam Sandler remake of this in the theaters with my dad. And I distinctly recall him saying that being kind of disappointed about this movie compared to the original. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it, much of that. But when we were looking for a classic movie to review last week, I was going through Paramount Plus and happened to see that. Sidebar: you can kind of tell the states of the various streaming wars because I was watching The Boy and the Heron on Max, and they had commercials for Paramount Plus, not advertising any of their original TV shows because those have slowed to a crawl or stopped because they just don't have the money for it right now.
Mm.
But they're advertising, Paramount Plus, it's the home of great movies. Please subscribe.
Yeah.
And I have to agree, Paramount has a long history going back, in this case, 50 years.
Mm.
Uh, so, Daniel, while you were out, I was just mentioning that I had happened to see the Adam Sandler remake of this one, and
Yeah, I have
my
too.
dad had been
Yeah.
kind of disappointed
Hmm.
at the time, and now I get it.
Yeah, I do. I do too. Yeah. 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 I remember when you first mentioned this movie, and you're like, "Oh, you want to watch this?" And I was like, "The Burt Reynolds one or the Adam Sandler one?" And you're like, "The Burt Reynolds one." Okay, yeah, let's watch that.
Yeah. The weird thing, as I was watching this movie, I kept going to myself, "Oh, that was in the Adam Sandler movie too." Like that was, from what I recall, a pretty faithful retelling of this, and
Yeah.
that's weird that you would bring in Adam Sandler and his normal crew of people to just make a straightforward remake of The Longest Yard.
Yeah, yeah, and well, and not only that, bring Burt Reynolds in to be in the remake.
Oh, that's right, he was in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played he was the old guy, the coach.
You know, I know that this isn't the case, but it would be kind of hilarious if they were both in the same continuity and the events just happened to like be very extremely similar to each other.
Yeah.
Like he was the same character from the original.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Yeah.
Like, look, I had this happen to me in the '70s. Let me just guide you through it. But no, that's kind of neat. I'd actually forgotten he was in it. But
Yeah.
let's see. Also, wasn't Rob Schneider the caretaker character?
That was Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. That's right. That's right. I
Yeah.
remember Rob Schneider was in it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to remember who else was in that movie. Actually, I remember. I think Bill Romanowski was one of the guards. He's an old football player.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this actual movie
Yeah, yeah. Let's do
because it's
that. Yeah.
the better version.
Yeah. Yes.
So, first off, I think this is the only time I've ever seen Burt Reynolds without a mustache.
Yeah. He rarely ever went without one. I
In
think.
fact, he even had it at the start of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I think he didn't have it in Deliverance, which is not a movie I want to watch.
So you're just immediately going, nope, nope, j- not
No,
interested.
no,
No.
no.
Uh, so this is a so this is a classic screwball sports movie where
Mhm.
it's just the team of misfits coming together to try to win the game that they have no rights to win.
Yeah.
Because so Bert plays Paul Crew, Paul Wrecking Crew, a washed-up football player who I believe got ejected from the league for shaving points in a game.
Yes, which I will say in football, that's not easy to do.
No, that basically implies that he knew exactly, that he was so good that he could decide the game.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, for those of you at home who aren't aware, shaving points is basically when you're betting in football, you aren't necessarily going, I think the Rams are going to win this week. You're going, I think they're going to do statistics, figure out the margin of victory is likely to be between 3 and 12 points or whatever.
yeah,
And if you bet in the spread and you win a small amount of money. But if the result is outside of the spread and you bet out in that section of the spread that it got into, you get way more money.
yeah.
So he was so basically he was throwing games and making sure the other side got enough points to beat the spread.
Right. Yeah. And I will say just real quick, point spreading is actually a lot easier to do in basketball than it is in football.
Okay,
You see it more in basketball. Yeah.
I can imagine just because you have a lot more chances to score.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the movie starts off where Paul Crew is with his what do you say, wife, girlfriend,
I think it was just a girlfriend.
girlfriend. Yeah. And she's very irritated with him, and they he even says to her, "I think the love has left our relationship."
With that Burt Reynolds charm.
Yeah,
It, it's good that Burt Reynolds charm is there because he is objectively an awful person.
yeah,
Like he's physically abusive. He steals her car while drunk. He drives the car into the bay.
yeah,
He assaults the police who are trying to arrest him for this crime.
yes, yeah, and as you might expect, that's when he goes to prison.
Yes, it turns out he wasn't famous enough to get out of trouble.
Right. Yeah, but famous enough that the warden of this particular prison actually got him transferred there because his prison guards have a semi-pro football team, and he wants them to be winners, and to do that, he thinks Paul Crew being a coach will help that happen. But the lead prison guard on for the team, who's the quarterback, is like, "You're gonna tell him not you don't want to do it."
Well, because otherwise it'll be physically bad for him.
Hmm.
So he goes in, says no, flirts with the secretary, and the warden was played by Eddie Albert, who he is one of the highlights of this movie because he is good at switching from being affable, good old boy type to just downright nasty,
Yeah, and
unlike like that.
oh yeah, yeah. I've actually met people like that in real life. It's
Yeah. Also, major character Ed Lauter as Captain Knauer. Not as much of a presence, but he's also it's hard to outshine the warden.
yeah. I've actually seen that. I actually saw that actor in the Schwarzenegger movie I watched a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
A Raw Deal. So he's obviously one of those character actors that just shows up all the time.
Yep. But so Bert refuses to join the team, and so he gets thrown on to the Make Work squad, where they basically transfer mud from one part of the swamp to another part of the swamp and then back again.
Yeah.
He so some observations I'm going to make about this movie right away are it's kind of in the same genre of Slapshot, where I can't believe they made some of these jokes in the 70s.
Oh yeah. Definitely. It, I'm actually kind of surprised Paramount Plus doesn't put trigger warnings on movies like this, because I
I
mean
wonder if Paramount does that on any movies. Have we seen any that had that?
I've never seen it. Yeah, I did. I think Max does it on some of them, but yeah, I don't, like like 48 hours, for instance, like
Yeah,
they were throwing the N word around all the time, and
yeah.
yeah,
This one had it a bit less, but still there.
yeah. Well, yeah. It had N word, it had bundle of sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, you had uh, f bombs, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and yeah, yeah. I think this was in the time of um, the auteur filmmaker when when movie studios were really struggling, and they basically just told filmmakers, make whatever movie you want, just don't
Right.
spend a whole lot of money.
We don't know what the audience wants. You figure it out. Be cheap.
Yeah.
Which is probably the era we're about to run into again. I would suspect.
Oh yeah. Hopefully. Yeah.
You know, because you end up with interesting movies like this.
Yeah.
So it follows kind of a predictable pattern where it starts off he has a rough go of it with the rest of the team on
Hmm.
the work farm. Uh, he he gets close to a couple of them, particularly James Hampton as the character caretaker,
Yeah.
uh, who's like the most immediately likable character in the movie.
Yeah. And then who's the other the one black guy? I can't remember his name.
Um, was his name Mawabi or was that a different one?
Let's see.
Or no, maybe it was Granville. Granville.
Granville. That's what it was. Yeah, Granville.
Yeah, yeah. Harry Caesar played him. He was also quite good.
Yeah.
I would actually say like, every character actor does what they need to for their particular role.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so uh, Burt Reynolds, Paul Crew, he eventually relents, and so sits with the warden, and he says, "Well, if you want to, he said, get them ready to go. They need to win their first game." And he said,
Right. Give him a warm up game.
"Right," which I don't. I'm guessing the professional leagues that used to do this, where they play a semi-professional team. I know in college. Big schools will play like smaller schools, and like for instance, like Texas would play, University of Louisiana Monroe, and they beat them like 70-3. Yeah.
Right, just to build up their confidence, to help them work out the kinks against an actual opponent.
Right, and that's basically what Paul Crew recommends to the warden, and then the warden's like, "Oh, I got a good idea. Well, I'll just have you have the guards play the cons, and you put a team together." Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a long scene of him recruiting various people who want their shot at the guards. Like, wait, we can kill the guards legally.
yeah, 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 we can actually hit them. Like, yeah, you can hit them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you have some interesting bits, like some of the racial divides in the prison. You have Paul, who's kind of an arrogant asshole at the start of the movie,
Yeah,
but slowly warming up to these guys.
yeah, 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 and then he meets what was it? Scarborough. Yeah, Nate Scarborough, who's an old football player, and he basically brings him on to be the coach. And so yeah, he basically just gets to know everybody really well,
Right.
and
You've got like you got the old guy who's been in prison for a long time because he punched a guard.
yeah,
You've got you got the big tall guy. You got the crazy Russian karate master.
yeah,
Uh, just a wide variety of different personality types to bounce off of.
yeah,
And Bird is very good in this movie because, like I said, I keep calling him a jerk. He really is, and
yeah.
they made no efforts to make you like him at the start of the movie.
No, they don't. Yeah,
Um, I wonder how much they pay. I wonder if Bert managed to like weasel out an extra 10K or something for having to shave his mustache during I get towards the start of the movie.
probably. Yeah. Well, they even made a joke about it when they were shaving it off. They're like,
Yeah.
Didn't you say you paid somebody $5,000 if you shave your mustache?
Oh, here's half. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Now, like a lot of comedies, that doesn't necessarily reward going through and spoiling the jokes. So I'm not going to spoil the jokes in the middle of the movie
right. Yeah,
because they're just like a lot of fun scenes of the ridiculous lengths they're preparing to go out there and kill those guards.
yeah,
But they're dressed up like just ordinary football advice.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
gentlemen, this is a this is what we call a brass knuckle.
yeah. Tape some plaster on there.
Right. Yeah, this is plaster of Paris. If we wrap it around your arm and it'll solidify in 15 minutes, it'll be hard as concrete.
Yeah,
just, just that kind of ridiculousness.
yeah,
So then we get to the final game, and the moral quandary that Burt finds himself in is that he's up for parole at 18 months,
yeah.
but he's only up for parole at 18 months if the warden is happy with him.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, and during this time, yeah, he's trying to he's kind of playing both sides because he's like, all right, yeah, well, I'll I know I know we're not going to win, but don't let them know that, and and say, well, I'll give you your game and all this other stuff, but then
Then the cons start winning and
yes,
winning hard.
yeah, and so then he uh yeah, I don't want to, yeah, well, I don't want to
Well,
spoil that part of it.
well, we don't need to spoil what the actual decision is, but what the warden tells him is, "You've shaved points before. I want a 21-point win at least,
Yeah,
or else you aren't getting your parole."
right. Yeah, and so he at first he does that, but then
Right. Well, that's his moral quandary, right? It's like,
yeah,
do I sacrifice this game that means so much to all these people to to save my own skin? Because
right,
he has the example of the man who punched a guard and has been in prison for 30 years.
yeah,
Like, does he want to do that for the rest of his life?
right, yeah, and that, I think they played that off really well.
Hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, I think this is I think we both agree this is much better than the Adam Sandler version. Um,
Right. Because at the end of the day, I can believe that Burt Reynolds is a world class football coach, especially in like the pre steroid era.
yeah, well, he played football.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he was a football player at Florida State.
Did not realize. Okay. So yeah, no wonder he was so good at looking believable.
Yeah, yeah,
And you have a nice, colorful cast of characters. In fact, I feel silly for not mentioning. You had the was it Richard Keel?
Richard Keel. Yeah,
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 aka
Jaws.
Jaws from Moonraker.
Yeah, yeah. His name was Samson.
Yep.
He's like, don't cut your hair.
Right. So he's just like as the big, strong guy, and you have yeah, just a fun variety of characters,
Yeah,
but they also managed to, unlike a lot of comedy movies where you don't necessarily care about the character, despite Reynolds being a complete jerk at the start of the movie, he warms up through it, and then they put him in a situation where he has an actual moral choice to make.
right.
And so it's like it's got a better character arc than a lot of dramas we've ended up seeing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, especially recent dramas that we've seen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, if you have Paramount Plus, go give it a watch.
yeah.
If anything we've said sounds remotely interesting, you'll probably enjoy yourself.
Yes. And as somebody who is a football fan for a long time, I can say that the football scenes are very accurate to what you would actually see in a football game. So, yeah,
Yeah. So I'm glad we could end on a super strong note because
yeah,
Uh, and we talked a little bit earlier about the financial state of the entertainment industry now that interest rates are higher and a lot of bad bets are coming home to roost.
mhm,
This would be the kind of the way forward: is identify actors who can play a character well and build a low budget movie around them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we've